was, and then you moved. Good evening, everyone.
Hello and welcome.
Welcome to episode 55, our top 10 motivational and inspirational teachers, books, and documentaries. So this week and last week when we had Eric and Nelson with the world's biggest things and the tiny replicas, and the Outer Realms means a lot more to us than just strictly the paranormal. And I was thinking about it, and as you'll hear from the show tonight, we really have our roots in the spiritual side of things. New mystics we've had now since 2002. Yeah. It's a big part of our lives. And I think that the spiritual before the paranormal really has affected how we've done things.
I think so. Absolutely.
So tonight is kind of two things. It's the story of how we got here on our journey, which of course is still ongoing, and many of the things, almost all of the things that are on this list, we've engaged with in the past month quite heavily and ongoing. So let's roll the introduction. Welcome to everyone. We're situated a little different tonight because I have a big pile of show and tell here for you. So let's roll into the Outer Realms. There exists a realm beyond our wildest dreams, a realm beyond reality that the gatekeepers and guardians have always told us consists of nothing but tricks of the eye, weather balloons, swamp gas, sand cranes, fairy tale myths of monsters, crackpot conspiracy theories, and desperate cries for attention.
We know this realm exists, and it's just beyond the horizon. The preset path, the well-worn walkways where the cynics want us to stay.
Instead, give this a listen. Put on your headphones, adjust your volume, close your eyes, and fasten your mental seatbelts, because the twilight-tinged turnoff from reality's alluring highway is looming just ahead.
We're about to leave the plane of the easily explained, couldn't possibly be's, and the no way I just saw what I saw's, for the spaces and places where everything is possible, and if you stay long enough, even probable. We're about to take a journey into the Outer Realms.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, talkative tonight. We're going to have a good
everyone.
night, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Lori says hello. Ronald says hello. Craig Sadaka, Craig S. we'll call him, says greetings. Everyone's saying hello to each other, which is nice. It's a tight group here. Craig A. is here from Three Beards Podcast. Everyone's saying hello. And, well, we have like a family. I love it.
I love it.
It's great. So there's Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Good time to tell you, Michael Giannetti, who's with us right now, will be our guest next week.
Yes.
Exciting. So for those of you who are going, hey, what's with the rolling museum? Hey, what's with the spiritual? Michael is an abductee, lifelong.
But so much more.
Yes, and so much more, and going to be a wonderful guest. He's funny and intelligent and kind and all those great things that we love in a guest. So, Michael, thank you for joining us tonight. Yes. So we're going to jump right in. This show's probably going to go a little long anyway. We're very excited about this stuff. And so it's not only our story, but hopefully these are tools, people, books, documentaries, cards, exercises, philosophies that you can all apply in your life. We really are at a crossroads, at a real fulcrum time in humanity. I believe that we might be on the cusp of alien disclosure, and maybe not from the governments. Maybe they're just going to say, hey, we're tired of waiting. Here we are. They seem to be doing that, right? The Mars rover landed. I know Craig A. and his wife, I think, are represented on the rover with some plaques. Some other friends of ours
I know, that's so cool.
also did that, which is very neat. very neat. Do I owe you money for the kind words, Michael says?
No.
We'll talk after the show next week.
Not if they're true, and they're true. So.
We should pay you after next week because
And
we
we
know
don't
it's going to be
lie
a
anyway,
great.
so.
It's going to be a great show. So we're going to jump right in. So the story really begins in 2002. 1997 is when we met. We got together. I was admittedly coming out of a terrible marriage. I was a lost soul. I had one night that was particularly dark. That's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm.
But something said, hey, stick around. You don't know what's around the corner. And it turned out to be this beautiful lady.
We don't have time tonight, but have we told the story on our show?
We have told this story many times. Yes, we did a
many
Valentine's episode last year.
Right.
I think people kind of know it by heart. But so in 2002, we have a mentor, Antoinette, who we've spoken about all the time. And Antoinette gave us an audiobook. And it was Peter Coyote, the awesome actor who does a lot in the world of the paranormal as far as documentaries and all. And it was about this book, The 4 Agreements. And this gets rebroadcast on ERRT radio and also on KGRA. We apologize to our audio only readers. You can look these things up at any time. But anyway, it's called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And Tanya, you want to tell them the 4 agreements?
Yes, but before I do, I have to say, I'm really proud of this. I still have the notebook from 2002. It was a journal, actually, and I have so many notes in there from our sessions with Antoinette and so many other things, but I have my original notes from when we first listened to this book.
They really made a huge impact. That's why this is number one. But they
they are number 1, be impeccable with your word. Number 2, don't take anything personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. And number 4, do your best.
Deceptively simple.
Very, what do I always say? Easy, but not, no, simple, but not easy.
Simple, but not easy. Like any good teacher will tell you about anything worth pursuing. Be impeccable with your word. No subtext, no double meaning. If you say you're going to do something, do it. It's a very cool way to live. Don't take anything personally. Well, that's hard. We're public figures. Mm-hmm. We did a show today, and there was one little, lots of people watched it. Lots of really good feedback. There's one little thumb turned down, and I'm like, what? Somebody didn't like it? So that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're doing all these kinds of things. Don't make assumptions. Mm-hmm. I always ask. If I think someone's upset or I haven't heard from them in a while, I'm wondering what's going on, what the outcome was. I don't want to think about it. My mind is going too much. So I just ask. Mm-hmm. And people are stunned by that. Hey, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in like 3 weeks. Everything okay? Are you good? Yeah, why? Because I hadn't heard from you and I was just asking. Oh, wow, what a cool thing. Mm-hmm. And of course, do your best. We are always trying to do our best, learn and improve and all that. And I would say that these 4 agreements, which are based on Toltec wisdom, the fact that most of what we grow up in, most of what we're conditioned on are lies. It's the veil of Maya, of illusion. Mm-hmm. And I know you're doing a lot of work about where does reality and illusion meet in our waking state, right? That's a big project that you're working on with help from the other side. So all 4 of these you will see. I think everything else we're going to talk about will really help you. So how about this guy right here? What the bleep do we know? And this happens to be the down the rabbit hole, like super excellent quantum edition, worth getting. Because it has hours upon hours upon hours of interviews and lectures by amazing people. You want to tell them some of the people that are on this?
Oh my gosh, so many amazing people. We're not going to be able to name them all, but Fred Wolf, John Hagelin, they're the main quantum physicist, Dean Radin, Candace Pert, Lynn McTaggart, Dr. Emoto, Joe Dispenza, who we'll be talking about.
Right. We're going to talk about Dr. Joe in detail. His portrait hangs on the wall next to another guy in my office where I can see them every day while I'm working. And that's Joe Campbell, who's further down the list. So Dean Radin now I believe runs the Noetic Institute. Mm-hmm. Dean Radin is a guy who's super sharp, super scientific, and went into this saying, yeah, I don't think there's anything to all this. and he found out that there was. I love people like that. Colin Wilson, who wrote Occult and Mysteries. He took the gig because he had written Angry Young Men books and couldn't get a book deal, couldn't feed his family. And somebody said, hey, we'll give you a really nice commission up front if you write this book about the occult. And he found out that there really was something, Factor X, something really there. I really perk up and pay attention to people like that. Candace Pert is all about neurotransmitters, peptides, and the nature of addiction.
She found the opioid receptors, which I think changed the way that addiction was looked at, treated.
Right. And we're still very much in an opioid crisis in this country.
Hi, Linda. I was just thinking about you right before the show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were talking about her. Dr. Emoto with, if you put a label on your water that says hate, the water molecules will arrange in an ugly, dark way. But if you put love or friendship or all these good words, doesn't matter what language, those water molecules will form absolutely beautiful. Emoto, I believe Emoto. Look up his work. The name of the book?
The book is, well, I think he has more than one, but the one I'm familiar with is Messages in Water, or Messages from Water. I think it's Messages in Water.
Yeah. And of course, Lynn McTaggart, who did all the work on the unified field. And this is about changing things like random number generators. This is fascinating stuff. Group intention. We were part of a global meditation group at the start of the pandemic. All those minds getting together, focusing on love. I think at any time in the world, Om Mani Padme Hum is spoken by millions of people. At once. And that's a powerful thing. The more candles that are lit, the more darkness gets burned away. That's a good thing. And of course,
along those lines, I believe it was John Hagelin who ran the experiment 80s, 90s, where all these people, like 1,000 people, came together in Washington, D.C., collectively meditated. And the crime rate during that time that they were meditating in D.C. dropped. So our thoughts affect our reality. And that's what the Bleep Do We Know is all about. Another life-changing. When we watch this movie, it's one of those movies, it's like...
And we just did watch it again last night. Right? There's a narrative about a woman who's really struggling in her life. She's not on her path. She could use all of the things that come on this list after. But she's played by the wonderful Marlee Matlin. Her roommate is played by Elaine Hendricks, who's just wonderful and is sort of the spontaneous artist counterpoint. So somewhere probably in the middle. I know that's where I try to be. So we mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza.
And I want to say one thing about what the Bleep Do We Know that I really love is they get into, among other things, the nature of reality and so many other things, but our emotional addictions. And then that work is way expanded on by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
That's right. So here's the book that I went out and got in 2004. Evolve Your Brain, The Science of Changing Your Mind. And it says right here, as featured in the movie, what the bleep do we know? Now, it's a big, thick, serious hardcover book. Some people might just as soon use it as a door stopper. We were talking about that. This might not be the ideal thing, but he does lay down all of his foundational ideas. Neuroplasticity. Our brains are not fixed things. Our intelligence is not a fixed thing. Even people who have terrible addictions, before they get to the stage of permanent brain damage, if they can get away from their addiction, their brain will come back. Those brain cells will come back. It's a wonderful thing. Tied to neuroplasticity is also mirror neurons. So say a free throw shooter, basketball, just making that motion and visualizing those baskets going in there, the same receptors fire in your brain as if you were on the court throwing that basketball. I'm a guitar player, so doing fingering, those same places are lighting up. Piano players, tennis players, conversations and all the things, right? And then a big thing with Dr. Joe, I'll turn it over to you, is the art of creating your day.
Creating your day. It's really about, again, how we create our own reality with our thoughts. So, and again, about our emotional addiction. So if you're every day, and we all do this until we become aware of it, we're basically cycling through the same emotional buffet every day. So we wake up generally in a certain state of mind and mood, and we move through this. Some people are addicted to anger. Some people are addicted to their victimhood, and so on. And so if that's what you're putting out to the universe is just going to respond and show up with more of that for you. So yeah, creating your day by, first of all, checking in with your inner emotional state and seeing, is this the same thing that I've been, what do they say? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting
a different outcome is insanity.
Is the definition of insanity. So you got to change the way that you're feeling. And then you decide, what do I want? You can just start with your day, or you can start with, your life. So, but for your day, what do I want my day to look like? The first time I did this, it was amazing. Because Joe Dispenza talks about this in What the Bleep. He says, I start every day and I create my day and I decide, what do I want to show up? And when we watched this movie, I was like, okay, I'm going to try that. And what am I going to manifest for myself today? And at that time, and this has kind of since changed, but back then, Joey wasn't a big guy on flowers. He just felt like cut flowers. He'd rather get something that was alive. He wasn't big on cut flowers.
Yeah, why cut them and kill them?
Right. And then they die. So it wasn't that he wasn't romantic. He's very romantic, but he just wasn't into buying flowers. So, but I just thought that would be a good test. Because it's not something you would be inclined, right, to get for me. So I thought, all right, I'm going to manifest some flowers. And so I went to work and I thought about these flowers and I just, pictured when I got home that there they would be. And sure enough, Joey went to the grocery store that day. He walked by the flower section and on a whim, he didn't know why. It's kind of like Linda joining us tonight when she says, you thought about me and that's why I'm here. This wasn't planned. But on a whim, Joey bought the flowers. And
you're just mind controlling everybody. Linda's watching our show. I'm buying you flowers. Wow. No, but obviously that's a joke. So we have this great kaleidoscope DVD that you can get from Joe's website, Dr. Joe's website. You could just watch the kaleidoscopic shapes and listen to the frequency music. And we do that. I think we talked about doing that this coming weekend.
It's such a great way to just sort of expand your mind, expand your consciousness, because you're watching these amazing, shapes, and you just lets your thinking mind kind of shut down for a while. It's
exactly. He is the king of awesome little phrases and titles. And so neurons that fire together, wire together. And that's complexes, loops. When we talk about Gay Hendricks in a little while, what are the limits on your thinking? What keeps you from achieving the things you want to achieve? So then he comes out with a masterwork that's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I love it.
Yeah. And
I certainly did that.
And I like Evolve. Excuse me, I'm getting tripped up on my words. I like Evolve Your Brain, but it is very technical. I found Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself a lot more accessible in terms of just being able to read it and then apply it, kind of thing.
Right.
And it, again, changed my life, because then I went to his website where I was able to get these meditations that he offers, and we definitely recommend. His website is it's just Dr, no period, Joe Dispenza.com. And on there you can purchase all various kinds of meditations. Joey and I have basically all of them. And we do them. Sometimes we'll meditate with Joe for as much as 2 hours in a day.
That's right. We start with a 20-something minute morning meditation, which is, again, creating your day, asking the universe for some kind of surprising something. And inevitably, during the day, something shows up. And it's wonderful. He really empowers you, just like a lot of the people on this list. If you've really connected with spirit, if you've really connected with the source, you will get this thing. So it's nice. It's kind of on you.
It's always a surprise. It's always something really fun and completely unexpected.
And oftentimes for me, it happens within the first hour. It's really kind of neat. And then there's one that I love called Blessing the Energy Centers. I usually cry by the end, right before I come out of it. And it really is great for clearing the chakras, the 7 chakras. You work your way up, you align, you situate yourself in the larger space, which is wonderful, and really align with the source. And then it's really just picturing what you want your life to be, who you want to be. And he says it's out there. Right?
Mhm.
This is where the quantum physics comes in. The wave possibilities are out there. All we have to do is match the frequency with that one. We were
Mhm.
talking with Jim Harold today on his show about the metaphor of fishing, of being a paranormal investigator, waiting for stuff to come. But if you get that frequency out there, you'll hook the same thing, and all the other probabilities will collapse, and it will become that one thing made manifest. So it's really wonderful. All this quantum physics is absolutely key to this work.
It really is. But I was going to say too, and that's the key. It's, a lot of times people will start their year and they'll do these vision boards, and that's great. It's pictures and cars and houses and, all the things that they want to attract into their life. But the only problem with that is if you're just looking at a picture, you're not in that emotional state. You're not in that emotional state as if you already have it. That's how you get into alignment with that kind of source energy to attract that thing into your life. So if you want it, if you're looking at a picture of something and it's like, I want it, you're just going to push it further away. You're never going to attract it to you, because what you're sending out to the universe is the frequency of want or lack. Universe is going to show up with more of that, and it's going to say, all right, I can show up with more reasons for you to want things. So you've got to believe that you already have it. And really, like Joey was talking about, your unconscious mind does not recognize a difference between your internal state, what's happening on the inside, and the external reality and what's going on outside. It doesn't understand the difference. So if you see yourself driving that car in your mind and believe that you have it, it'll show up.
Right. So let's get into, we were talking about some of these people just lay it down in no nonsense ways. And myself growing up, Roman Catholic, Italian American, nothing was sugar coated.
Mm-hmm.
It was the way it was, and that's the way it was. Here's the reality. So we all grew up with a big dose of reality. And then I came to realize that reality itself is fluid. So that was kind of the journey. But we're talking here about Carole Mace. Oh, I love her.
Oh,
I really love her. So
love
Carole Mace is a medical intuitive. Can you explain that?
So a medical intuitive is someone who can just kind of tune in with somebody's energy body and just understand intuitively what might be going on with that person. I believe it works differently. Like I don't consider myself a medical intuitive, but sometimes when I do readings for people, they'll say, can you check in with my health? And so I'll scan their energy body. I might get pulled to their lungs. And of course, I never diagnose anyone. I'm not a medical professional, but I may say, I'm getting pulled to the area of your lungs. Is there an issue there? Do you have a cold or whatever? I'll get pulled to certain areas. And like I say, even if I thought I was getting something specific, I would never tell that person because I'm not a medical professional. And most medical intuitives, I think, aren't out there diagnosing people per se, but they do get, they may say, oh, you should go talk to your doctor, and just get a checkup.
Right. This is serious business because I was in contact with someone who crossed that line, made a suggestion to me for an amino acid, and I wound up permanently damaging my heart,
right?
Which I don't talk about publicly, but I'm saying it tonight under this circumstance. So people need to be really, really careful.
Right.
Oh, my guides are saying that you should take this and do this, and I took it, and you know what I went through.
Right. And I think most medical intuitives are not out there doing that, but that is really good advice. If you ever go see, an intuitive, a psychic, anyone like that, and they're telling you to take anything, check with your doctor. That's what I always say.
You and Lori had an adventure for
yes.
Carole Mace, right?
Yes,
we don't have time to talk about it tonight.
That is a great story. In fact, I I am going to be launching a show soon, and I'm going to ask Lori to come on when I do. This is a surprise, and we'll have to tell that story if she agrees to come on the show.
That's right. We're kind of expanding the empire a little
Right.
this year, right? We both have some things that we're up to separately. But anyway, so she's a Chicago Catholic. Absolutely no nonsense. She talks about the energetics of healing, which is wonderful. She talks about people who tend to lead with their wound. Let me tell you what happened to me. Let me tell you who screwed me over today. I know some people like this, and it becomes very difficult. And I say to them, nobody wants to be around that energy. Nobody wants to hear about your perceived failures. Every time you got screwed, every time it didn't work out. A lot of you know that last week I had a giant opportunity. And it didn't quite work out the way that I wanted, but I got to do consulting work for one of the largest, most prestigious automakers in the world, which was very cool. I think I taught them a lot, and they decided to stay in-house. But I gave myself an afternoon to feel bad about it. Mm-hmm. And I wrote to my tribe and to my kids, and everybody wanted to know how it turned out. And I'll tell you, because I said it's okay, I learned, and this was a victory, and it was a very cool thing. And here's why this was positive in my life. People came back and said, keep slugging. You go. Proud of you. And that's because of that energy that you put out and keeping that positive mind. She also talks about the energy bank account, which I love. You want to?
Yeah. So, this is so true. We have a finite amount of energy every day. So the universe supplies us with, she says, I love this analogy. Say you get $100 worth of energy every day. How are you going to spend that energy? She says most people, and I find this to be true, particularly when I'm doing the spiritual life coaching with clients, most people, spend like 75% of their budget for the day on, stuff in the past or worrying about the future. So if it isn't giving you a return, just like any other kind of resource, if you're not getting a return on it, stop doing it. So if you're worrying, you're wasting your energy. If you're fuming over what, some perceived wrong, stop doing it. It's a waste of your energy. Put your energy into things that are going to bring you an energetic return. So I just think that's incredible advice, and it's so true.
And it changes the way you do things. I mean, sometimes I'll say to the kids, like they'll come at me with something, right? This is a difficult time in everybody's lives, but especially the young people, the millennials, Generation Z. They're working through a lot of stuff in a difficult time. But I'll say, I don't quite have the budget, for this big thing you're coming at me with. So let's kind of pare it down. Let's really see what's at the core. And I know in our relationship, in a lot of my other relationships, in the disappointments that come with being an entrepreneur and trying to go out and land clients and get things. If you dwell, you're just spending that money. You just have the window open and it's blowing out like in old bank robber movies, right?
I think it takes time. I know for myself, like I just don't. If I do, for example, every once in a while, we are human. So every once in a while, we might get our feelings hurt or we might take something personally. But I really try to watch and go, okay, no, I'm not doing this. I don't have the emotional energy, or maybe I have it, but I'm not spending it on this. And it's kind of changed our relationship over the years. I mean, most young people, I think, are like this when they first get married, especially in that first year of marriage. You can have some pretty big, fights or blow-ups. We just don't
What you're about,
do
fear.
that. Yeah, and it's about being young and passionate and whatever, but we don't even do that anymore. It's like, right. Okay, whatever.
She, Carole Mace does a lot of work with the chakras, which we mentioned with Joe Dispenza, and also tribalism. If you're down in those lower chakras,
yes,
it's about tribalism. It's about my team, my tribe, my group, my colors, all those different kinds of things. And we got to watch that, because we won't get above into the more individualized, actualized, higher order things if we're down in that sort of tribal root area. And the thing that I love about Carole Mace, she says, everybody grows up and they're being told, you're so special, you're so special, you're so special. Let me tell you, you're not special. But I think what she's really saying is, okay, we're all special in our own way. So there isn't special that puts you ahead, right? There isn't like superior among equals kinds of things.
Yeah, and also, people get so in their head, and again, this is something I work with my spiritual life coaching clients with a lot. We can get so in our head, and you call it the hamster wheel, and I've kind of stolen that and I've been using it. But get on the hamster wheel of, oh, this problem is so unique to me. And then we create this big giant story about how unique we are because of this special problem. Nobody had, everybody's problems are pretty much similar.
And that's really leading with your wound.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If your main story is one of always being hurt, always getting screwed, always coming out on the short end, then that's going to come out. So she does a lot of work with sacred contracts, which is a complex thing. We're here and what are we supposed to do and all of that. But in the interest of time, let's move on to her work. Second only to Carl Jung, the impact of her work on archetypes is huge.
Archetypes, yeah. So her book, Sacred Contracts, is a great book. In fact, I think I see, Jessica's here. Jessica has this book we were just talking about. Again, another life-changing book. She helps you with that book find out what your archetypes are. So archetypes are basically patterns of energy, universal energy that express. And we all understand the language of archetypes. When we talk about someone being the victim, or we talk about, oh, she's such a queen, or she's such a princess. Those are archetypes. And so she kind of breaks it down to help you figure out what are your archetypes. She talks about how we all have 4 survival archetypes. There's 4 archetypes that seek to express through every single one of us. And again, this is where we're not special. Everybody has this. So we all have the child. We all have the victim. We've all been a victim at one time or another. We all have the prostitute, and that means we all have a price. And we all have the saboteur. So at one time or another, I'm sure we can all relate to having gotten in our own way about something. So those are the 4 survival ones. But over and above that, Carole Mace talks about how we all have probably about 12, including the 4 survival ones. So Joey and I thought we'd share 4 of our 12 in the interest of time.
Right. And there are actually 12 major ones and 12 minor ones. But the 12 major ones I work with a lot. But the top 4 of those, probably no surprise to our audience, visionary, seeker, teacher, and writer. And these are all part to me of what I call the storyteller group. That at my core, when Joe Dispenza says in those meditations, what is that version of yourself? It's the spiritual storyteller. And yours?
For me, I have the seeker, always seeking, truths and wisdoms. The mystic, always having mystical experiences. Mystic / psychic for me. The healer and the mentor, because I love working with people and sharing, my experience, my teachings. Not my teachings, but my training, my modalities with
and
others.
Big news coming at the end of the program about your work as a mentor. So, Carole Mace, why people don't heal and how they can, 3 levels of power, the energetics of healing, right? We're not just talking about this stuff. We use it all the time. We have it. And her archetype cards, which are it's phenomenal. It's a great organizing principle. That's what I call a lot of these things. We've had on guests who read palms, who are astrologists, who work with the I Ching. These are great organizing principles.
Yep.
They're great grids. They're great systems and frameworks to really understand what's going on in this giant story. We're each the star of our own story.
That's right.
We're support characters in some stories. We're walk-ons in other stories. Some stories we get kicked out of unexpectedly. Some stories I think we long to be a part of, and that's a part of our daydreaming and our fantasy. Which is wonderful. So we have some new people tonight with us. So Valerie Castle, welcome.
Welcome.
She says, we live in a home with a little ghost girl. She actually has followed us for the past 5 moves. We think so because we have 5 kids. Yes, we've done a lot of episodes. We can't really get into it tonight. But not all the children who are earthbound here as ghosts, they love being here. They're okay with being here. They love being around other children. So Valerie, I think that's very wise.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. And she probably just feels like she's part of your family. And if you don't do this already, I always recommend to folks who have children ghost in their home, put some toys out and talk to her.
Read her a book.
Yeah, they love that sort of thing.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining the show. Dave says, love Joe Dispenza. Been working my way through his books. I started daily meditations because of them.
Wonderful.
When he talks, I listen. She's mischievous.
That's also very common. That's common.
We had in our house in the holler in West Virginia, we had a little ghost girl, and she would hide my keys before I had to drive down the mountain and into town for meetings, all in the sense of getting me to loosen up and not take things so seriously. So yeah, that mischievousness. And if she crosses the line, you can say to her, hey, we don't do that here, right? It's not, none of the kids, the other 5 kids can't do that, and we'd like you not to do it either. And that's fair.
But there is evidence that there's pretty good results when ghost children hide things. If you say, okay, now, where is it? Oftentimes the thing will show up.
It worked for me.
Hopefully that
I never did miss a meeting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So let's move on to another guy who, we just love this fella. And he passed away last year.
Lori may know, or Linda may know.
Not too long ago.
A couple years ago, I think.
Wayne Dyer, he predeceased Ram Dass.
Yes,
who's also on the list. And they were very, very close friends. They lived near each other in Hawaii towards the end of their lives. This book, it looked different when I got it actually in college. And I didn't know what it was. It was actually black with white letters. It might have been the first hardcover edition. And someone left it in the bathroom of the theater where I was studying to be an actor in college. And I always called it your erogenous zones. I don't know, but it's actually your erroneous zones.
I think he was doing a little play on words there.
Yeah, I'm sure that I was. This is wonderful. We got this for donating to PBS.
Yes.
So I don't know if you can find it. Maybe you can find it.
It's on YouTube. Yes.
Okay, it's on YouTube. It's called The Power of Intention. Wonderful. Connecting with the source and all of that good kind of stuff. Let's just check our notes here. We have some more messages from our new viewers. So the power of intention, connecting with the source, whatever you call it, God, the source, the universe, whatever name you have for it, but connecting with it and knowing that it's infinite and it's abundant and it never lacks in anything. It's an infinite, there's a big problem with our society with this illusion of lack
mentality,
of scarcity, all of that kind of stuff. Feel good chemicals from touch and hugs.
Serotonin.
We got a message as we're kind of struggling through the winter here, down on serotonin, all those good things, to hug each other 5 times a day. So we're doing that, and that just gives you the good stuff, right? And
so the power of intention is really about, like what I was talking about earlier, just getting in alignment with that source energy. And that source energy is this infinite, what Joey was saying, whatever you want to call it, God, the divine. I like the term source energy because it's the, place from which everything comes. It's an abundant. There is no lack. It's an abundant universe. Anything you want, you just got to get in alignment with whatever it is that you want. One of my favorite experiences was a friend of mine, and I won't take too long telling the story, but she was starting a business, and there were other competitor businesses in the same town. And, they were trying to, do things that might impede the growth of her business. And she didn't care. She was like, that's not going to bother me. It's an abundant universe. There's plenty for everyone.
Right.
And it didn't affect her at all. Her business is thriving. It took off. And it was because of her attitude, because she didn't take it personally. She didn't see any kind of lack. She said, there's plenty for everyone. And that's exactly what she manifested for herself. So that's what, the power of intention, that program is all about.
So Dave says that he saw Joe Dispenza talking about Newtonian versus quantum physics, right? Materialism versus other things. That's the move we're going now. I felt the same way. After I saw these guys on What the Bleep, Fred Wolf, John Hagelin, Dean Radin, Joe Dispenza, talking about quantum physics, I took a crash course, right? Dancing Woolley Masters, Gary Zukav, Fritz Capra, David Talbot or Michael Talbot, Quantum Physics and the New Mystics, David Baum in the Holographic Universe. I deep dove for years, Stephen Hawking. And when it came to this work that we're doing, it really helped. The breaking down of space-time, by location, all these different kinds of things. So I totally agree. Valerie with the Ghost Girl, my daughter's shoes were missing. I tore the house up trying to find them. Something about shoes. We've heard about that before.
Yeah, shoes are a common target.
Yeah, 2017, I think so, because Ram Dass, I think, was 2019.
No, 2020. He just died
2020, right?
Last year.
Next day, right in front of the back door, plain sight. So glad to have found you on Facebook Live. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much, Valerie.
Thank you.
And that little girl, if you keep her in line, you'll be okay. You're doing the right thing.
Just have fun with her.
Dave said a Freudian slip as far as your erogenous zones. Oh yeah, I was 18, 19 years old. No question. But I did come back to Wayne the way he meant it.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your erroneous zones
yeah, please.
just for a second. I totally recommend this book. So we talked about earlier, don't take anything personally as one of the 4 agreements. And that's one of the things that Wayne Dyer talks about in a slightly different way. And your erroneous zones, one of your erroneous zones being that you care about what other people think too much. And if you're living your life worrying all the time about what other people think, you're just not going to find a lot of happiness, because you know what they say, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. You're never going to do it. What you should be doing is striving to make yourself happy, to find your own self-fulfillment. And if you're respecting others, then that's all you can do, but you certainly can't live your life trying to please others. So that's a big part of what he talks about in there. But, really taking care of yourself. It's a great book. Highly recommend it.
Yep. Ronald has a 10-year-old boy sneaking around his house and peeking around the corner.
I've seen him.
And he says he's never had kids, but he has these boys. Oh, you've seen them. So that peek around is an interesting phenomena as far as all of that goes. So now let's go. We mentioned Ram Dass. Ram Dass is servant of God?
Yes, that's what Ram Dass means.
Ram Dass in 1950s was Richard Alpert. Born Richard Alpert, became a psychologist, was very successful. Harvard University. Yeah. And with Timothy Leary, got together with him. They're experimenting with psychedelics. Hey, the suit that I was born into doesn't quite fit me. I think a lot of Wayne's stuff and why they were together, let go of approval seeking, try to prove yourself to your parents, try to, that goes all the way back to Miguel Ruiz and the 4 agreements, and that Maya. Right? This idea, I'll remember Peter Coyote's voice, Coyote from reading the Trickster Tale last week on our Saturday morning live children's book show, that the girl sings and the father's having a bad day and he says, stop that singing. It's on my nerves. It's terrible. And the girl never sings again. All those different kind of things. And he was saying, hey, this isn't for me. So he journeyed to India. And he met Neem Karoli Baba. I'll let you take over.
Yeah. So at the time, Ram Dass, who was still Richard Alpert, was touring India, and a friend of his had he had borrowed a Range Rover, and they were driving it around India, and his friend wanted to go somewhere, and Ram Dass was very kind of nervous about this. Anyway, they end up in the mountains in India, and he wants Richard Alpert to meet his guru. And at the time, he wasn't big on gurus. He had no interest in meeting him. But he went, he met him, and it completely changed his life. This man, Neem Karoli Baba, who was wrapped in a blanket, and often was, changed his life, took him under his wing, gave him a new name, Servant of God, Ram Dass. By the way, this is those of you who may be familiar with Krishna Das and his music, same guru. completely changed his life, put him under a strict program of yoga and meditation. And when he returned to the States as Ram Dass, he was just sharing what he knew, but he drew people in droves. People came to see him. And then he just started touring and writing books. His big book, Be Here Now, many of you might be familiar with that. It's all about being present in this moment. Mindfulness meditation practice, basically. But again, another thing that changed my life. So I actually read his much later book called Be Love Now before I got Be Here Now. But we have Be Here Now.
From our good friend who sometimes watches the show, Mark Husk, who's an addictions counselor, a deep believer in Joe Campbell, The Journeys, and he gave this to you at his house one day.
Not this one.
Not this one?
No, that one I got later. He gave me Be Love Now.
Okay.
Different book. I don't have it here right now.
There you go.
But what happened was we were at Mark's house having dinner, and he's like us. He's a book guy. He has this whole library in his house. And I got pulled to a book on one of his shelves, and I just was drawn to it energetically. And I pulled it off the shelf and was kind of like, what is it about this book? And he goes, well, I think you need to have that book. And so he gave it to me, and I took it home, and I started reading it right around bedtime. So I read maybe just the intro. I hadn't gotten far into it at all, and I was tired, so I went to sleep. Well, that night I had a dream. And in the dream, I was watching from afar, and there was a guru standing, and there were all these people around him. And the man was this man. But I didn't know anything about Neem Karoli Baba yet because I hadn't gotten really into the book yet. So there was no way I could have known who this person was, what he looked like, or anything. So I have this dream. All these people are gathered around the man, and they're just kind of, in awe. And I, from afar, I say, no, they have it all wrong. It's not the guru, it's the message. And he turns around in the dream, and he gives me this exact smile. Exactly that look with this little twinkle in his eye. And I woke up from the dream. Well, as I started reading the book and got to the pictures of Neem Karoli Baba, I was just gobsmacked. I was like, oh my gosh. So subsequently, he started coming to me, and he gave me, and by the way, he had been deceased at this point. He died in the 1970s. So for 40 something years by the time he came to me in the dream. But many, many people have reported the same types of visitations from Neem Karoli Baba, and he has subsequently become their guru as well.
There's a whole Facebook page, right? Where just to catalog those.
Page, just.
And didn't he come to you 3 days or so ago? You were kind of fixating on a problem that we're dealing with, and he said,
"Yeah, he just came." I was very intently thinking about something, and he said, relax your face, check in with your face. Like my face was all tensed up, and I did that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And then like he often does, it was bedtime, had my eyes closed, I wasn't asleep, but I had this whole vision. And when I have these kinds of visions involving him, it's as if I am right there. I mean, I am transported to another place in time, and I am literally in his presence. It's amazing. So Neem Karoli Baba, he's just amazing.
You hang out with some very cool non-living people.
I do. I really do.
So let's move on. Oh, so if you're interested, this is it's a combination of his lectures, interviews with him. He had a very severe stroke many years before he died, but never lost his spirit.
Right.
And so this is wonderful. Becoming Nobody, it's called. Again, sorry, it's put out by ramdas.org. So that's awesome. You can go out and do that and get that. That's wonderful. So 2 ladies I think very, very highly of. Elizabeth Gilbert. Now, you may know Eat, Pray, Love. You may know it especially from the Julia Roberts movie. Also with a favorite of mine, Javier Bardem, who says, you don't need a man. You need a champion. And I try to do that. Try not to know so much be a man as be your champion. Inspired by that. But the book came out. She was a journalist. She was kind of on the hamster wheel, broken relationships, all these kinds of things, bad marriage, other bad relationships. She decides she's going to go on a tour of the world. She goes to Italy. She goes to India. And what's the third place she goes to? Eat is Italy. Pray is India. Love when she comes back and she gets involved with her husband.
No, she's in the islands.
She goes to the islands, and that's where she meets her husband.
Yeah.
She's since moved on. She realized that she was a lesbian, and that relationship came to an end. Definitely an adventurer. And she wrote this book, Big Magic.
Bali, that's where it was.
Creative living beyond fear. We bought this for a group that we were working with. We bought copies for everyone. She talks about some great things. First of all, when you write a book and it's your first book, even if you've worked for it for a long time, everybody says, what's next? How are you going to top something that was a national bestseller, was a movie with Julia Roberts? So she really started thinking about this stuff. And she thought about the idea of the genius and the daemon. Genius is something in modern times that somebody has. Albert Einstein was a genius. Genius and daemon are like the muses. They're those higher source powers, those messages that come in, whether they're angelic beings, celestial beings, your own inner voice, direct from the source, with ideas, with all these kinds of things. The idea that some people have it and some people don't. With you, with living the intuitive life and mentoring and training, you say everybody has it. It's there, right?
It is.
Yeah, and she talks about fear and courage. She talks about living up, inspiration, and I don't know. Do we have time for the Tom Waits story?
You have to tell it. It's a great story, and you tell it really
I like
well.
to do impressions of Tom Waits. But anyway, inspiration is one of those things that sometimes it can be fleeting. And as a writer, as an actor, as a director, as a teacher, sometimes it's fleeting, and I'm trying to grasp it. Or some of you, when you want something so much and you're going after it, it's just on the tip there and you can't quite grasp it. And he tells a story that he's driving down the road and he gets this inspiration for a song, and he's driving and he has nothing to write with. So he says, well, listen, I really appreciate you coming to see me here. And, but as you can see, I'm driving this big rental car down this road in the middle of nowhere, nothing to write with. So if you really want me to have the inspiration, just come back to me tonight in the hotel. Otherwise, go see Leonard Cohen. And I really kind of like that. So I always travel everywhere with a notebook or a recorder. So Lori says, Tanya has the best dreams. I say that to you all the time. You are just a pro dreamer, no question. Valerie asks if we talk on Clubhouse. I don't know what Clubhouse is.
Yeah,
we'll have to check that out.
Have to tell us what that is.
Ronald says, good stuff. Thank you. We're giving it a go. We're doing our best. One of the 4 agreements. So that's Elizabeth Gilbert. And then Brene Brown. And I don't know if Vicky Angotti's listening tonight or if Vicky will watch the show after. But Vicky turned me on to Brene Brown.
Me too. To
her TED Talk and all. Just a quick break here. Dave says, I believe everyone has it, each in their own way, and that is the beauty of humanity.
Yes.
Amen to that. Namaste, our new friend, Dave. That's wonderful. So Brene Brown, the big A, authenticity, right? 2 great books, Gifts of Imperfection. And this is one that really broke her.
Yeah.
Broke her career. Didn't break her at all. She did a TED Talk. She was overweight. I didn't even think that she was overweight.
I never thought so.
But she does this great TED Talk on sociology. Story is data with a soul. All this groundbreaking work that she's doing. And all these trolls come out and they're like, lose some weight, and who could believe you're a fatty, and all this horrible stuff. It changed the trajectory of her work, and I do believe that sometimes the muses, the geniuses, the daemons come down and say, I know you're doing this, but for your higher good and for humanity, we need you to do this now. And that's a trick. And she wrote Daring Greatly, quoting Theodore Roosevelt. But some of the cool things that she says, vulnerability and authenticity. I try to be authentic. Just kind of show up as me. And people have ideas and feelings about that.
And
right? Often
they're
the people
going to.
closest to us.
Yeah, people are always going to.
Yeah, being vulnerable, to being open to that criticism. Put yourself out there. Say the things, be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
This is my belief, and I'm sharing it, and let the chips fall. There's Linda. Yeah, vulnerability. Awesome. Owning your story and loving yourself through that process. Anybody who preaches loving kindness, I'm all about, because we're fallible, right? That's part of our school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead.
No, I love how she talks about owning your story through, some people are kind of ashamed of their past or mistakes that I've made. She talks about shame. It's so true. It's a useless emotion. It doesn't help you grow. It keeps you stuck. Wayne Dyer talks about that also in Erroneous Zones. But yeah, until you can let go of that shame and own your story, own where you came from, that's where the authenticity comes in. And then you're just unapologetically yourself.
Right. And as she says, and this is that kind of Carole Mace toughness, don't listen to the negative. You are not a jackass whisperer. Yeah, don't get down about those little thumbs pointing down or whatever. Keep doing what you're doing. And Lori, thank you so much, my friend. Namaste to you as well. Also very authentic and awesome person.
One of the
Lori.
most authentic people I know.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, just on that note of authenticity, again, kind of it all, what we love about all this stuff is it all sort of
it's of a piece, as I like to say.
Yes, exactly. It all fits together. And Wayne Dyer says, people are going to have opinions about you no matter what. So Wayne Dyer says, when you judge another person, you're not defining them, you're defining yourself. And I would say the same is true. When somebody is judging you, they're not defining who you are, they're defining who they are, because it's never about you. It's always about the other person. So Be yourself. Don't be afraid. Don't care what other people think.
And the great Pete Townsend, who was incredibly, sometimes painfully, publicly authentic and honest, I think was quoting AA and the Big Book and said, when you point a finger at someone, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you. Wow, my beard is lighting up. That's chilling. Just the idea of that keeps me from pointing fingers, because I think that's really true. So now, those of you who have known me a very, very long time, I apologize, but I always invoke my great saint, Joseph Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
I write about him in my books. He's everywhere in my teaching. His picture is hung in every classroom where I had a long-term space. I was first introduced to Joe Campbell along with you in 1997.
See, I always thought you knew about him before.
I didn't.
That.
We were at the public library in, I guess, Mesa. We had our library cards, and the big thing then was to rent DVDs and videos.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pulling all this research. I'm writing these books. I'm pulling research. I'm deeply into the journey. And there's this series of lectures. And you were at a place in your life, you were going to a big Christian megachurch and all. You were like, I do not know about this stuff at all.
Let's just say at the time, I was pretty well steeped in dogma. And I didn't want to, I was taking those teachings literally. And the brilliance of Joseph Campbell and where I've evolved over the years is to have the ability to see it for what it is, which is all part of a story about humanity. Call it myth, call it metaphor, but it's a symbolic language where those archetypes that we talked about come through. But yes, originally I was taking everything too literally to be able to find the gems in this enormous treasure that he was bringing.
And he was really saying that what's in the Bible is not necessarily it. And the map is not the map is not the terrain, and the metaphor is not the thing. And myths are complicated things. And so it was a great journey, and we really grew together. Linda asks, can you offer any advice on sparking higher level dreams? I ask and receive only craziness. No rush on this. Don't want to interrupt. Never an interruption. It's always good to have a conversation.
Well, no, it's a great question, Linda. I think your dreams, you've shared some of them with me. I think they're amazing. I don't think they're crazy at all. But yeah, I think the key to dreams is the first thing, and you probably already know this, Linda, but for everyone, they're usually not literal. there, again, look at the archetypes. What archetypes are trying to express through your dreams? I like to use a technique where pretty much everyone in my dream is a aspect of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times people might dream of somebody that they knew 20 years ago, and they'll say, oh my gosh, why am I dreaming about that person? Like I haven't thought about them. And so why are they coming up in my dream? Well, go back to that point in your life when you knew that person. What did that person represent for you? What situations were you going through? What was your life like? What was your emotional state? Because more than likely, that's what that person is representing for you. It has nothing to do with that actual person. So look at things again through the lens of metaphor, through archetype. Don't take things literally. And one last thing, a lot of times people think, oh, somebody died, or, if there's death in the dream or something scary, again, it's probably metaphor. What aspect of yourself might be dying off? Or if, you're being chased and somebody's trying to harm you. One aspect of your psyche is trying to maybe rid another aspect of your psyche. How are you evolving? Look at dreams that way. But Linda, your dreams are amazing because I know about them. So we'll talk more.
Right. And as Lori says, that is how we learn. And we all do have dogma in our lives. And I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I left the church for my own reasons, mostly to get away from the dogma and get to the core of the stories. Very, very, very rich stories in the Catholic Church, rich traditions, rituals. People ask me when I had my experience of the paranormal, since I was little, I was thinking about going to seminary after I made my confirmation. It's very, very powerful stuff. So back to Joe Campbell, and then we'll get some more comments. The audience is so vocal tonight. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Great,
I love it.
Great.
The hero's journey. Go to my YouTube channel. Every day is a story all its own. All of these videos going back now about 2 months are also on that channel. But I do a whole series on storytelling and the hero's journey, that mega myth. You definitely want to read The Hero with 1,000 Faces. This was very life-changing in my teaching and my career, my role as a storyteller, starting in 2003. The Power of Myth, his famous series with Bill Moyers, which I think you can probably get online, probably on YouTube. And you can see how all of that different stuff really works. Those are wonderful things. He was sometimes controversial, and he wasn't afraid of that. He was super authentic. This is Sukvati, which you can get from the Joseph Campbell Foundation. This is narrated by Susan Sarandon. Let's get to audience comments, and then let's get to some other things really quick having to do with Joe. So David says, I'm so glad Jessica told me about this. Great energy info. Got several people and good things to follow up on. So happy that it's from here in West Virginia. We have deep, deep ties to West Virginia. Thank you both. Thanks, Jessica. I needed some positive input today. Thanks so much. Hope everyone has a great evening. Dave, thank you so much. Namaste, sir. Linda says, last night she set a mattress on fire and then changed the sheets.
So, I mean, like I always say with dreams, only you can decide what the symbols are meaning for you. But if it were my dream, I might say about a mattress, what am I sleeping on? That I want to set on fire and then freshen up the sheets, put something fresh there. So is there something that you're not looking at? Is there something that you've put aside that you're, so to speak, sleeping on? That's how I would begin to approach it. But again, only you know what a mattress might represent for you. There's, a lot of different things. Some people hide money under their mattress. Some people, it matters. Did you just get a new mattress? Does that represent, some kind of new luxury in your life? So those are the types of questions to ask when looking at your dreams.
The name of the YouTube channel is Every Day is a Story All Its Own. But if you search for Joey, Joey, Medea, Madia, it will come up. You'll see me in a circle dressed as a pirate. One of my main archetypes and alter egos. So thank you very much, you guys. So Joe, what will they think of me must be put aside for bliss? Again, reinforcement of authenticity.
Yes.
So what is that? Follow your bliss. It's from the Sanskrit, Sat Chit Ananda. It's different states of consciousness and the idea of bliss. Bliss not being ignorance is bliss. Bliss can be painful. Bliss is following your truth. As one of the heads of the Joe Campbell Foundation says, it's that thing you cannot not do. If I was not be able to tell stories, I would not want to live. It is my oxygen. It is my breath. It is my bliss. I was lucky enough to know from the time I was a tiny kid, went to high school and was in all of the performing arts, spent all my time in that wing, band, theater, chorus, the whole bit. Went to college for English literature and acting. Some people weren't happy about that. They told me, oh, you should go to this school. You should do this. You should get your secondary certification. I just followed my bliss. I just put aside what will they think of me for my bliss. And it's worked out pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
I really
a lot
can't
of
complain.
people wonder in their lives, why am I here?
Yeah.
What is my path? And that's really what he's talking about with bliss. It's, the thing you're never going to feel fulfilled until you're doing it. And a really good piece of advice is think about what you did when you were a kid. What was the things that you really loved to do when you were a kid that made you different? I have some friends who are artists, and unless they're creating art, they're not happy. So it's, unless you're doing it, you're not going to be happy. That is your bliss.
Right. So Jessica was our angel today. Candace says, agree with Dave. Thanks, Jessica Knuckles. I can't wait to get in contact for a session. You have some great announcements coming up at the end of this. Let's continue moving along here. We're running this show a little longer than normal tonight, but this material is just so important and sparking great conversation.
Absolutely.
So in 2011, this film came out, and we've bought dozens of copies of this book to give to students, friends, family, people who express an interest. We send it to them. It's by Patrick Takaya Solomon. He went through a real long road of following his bliss to make this movie. There are wonderful people. You want to go? Yeah, we'll go back to that. But you want to go down who appears in this?
Yeah, I mean, Deepak Chopra, Tony Hawk, Laird Hamilton, Sir Ken Robinson, Rashida Jones, Akiva Goldman, Gay Hendricks. Just amazing, amazing people.
And it turned us on to Gay Hendricks. So I will say, if you're starting your journey or you want to extend your journey, follow the breadcrumbs. I probably have 3,000 books in our house and DVDs and different kinds of things, because if someone reads someone, if someone mentions someone, I go and I pursue that. And audience and colleagues and teachers and mentors, hey, you should read this. Go and do it. Great. And so this kind of all happened. And Gay Hendricks tells this great story. Overweight, chain smoker, in a terrible relationship, life going nowhere, slips on the ice getting his mail, smacks his head, and has a life review. And it completely changes his life. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Some of the highlights of the Finding Joe DVD, right? The story of the Golden Buddha always makes me cry. And it's the opening story.
Yes, I love to tell that story. Can I tell that story?
Yeah, but just a small version, because we're pushing time.
Right. So long ago, there was a village. They had a big statue of a golden Buddha. They found that there was an invading army coming, so they covered the statue up with mud. The army occupied the village for many years, and so long, actually, that they forgot, all the villagers, that there was a golden Buddha underneath the statue, until one day a young monk was sitting at the foot of the Buddha and a little piece of the mud fell off. And so he began picking away and saying, there's gold underneath the Buddha. And of course, the metaphor is that we all are born golden, and it's, the layers that we put on when we worry about what other people think,
that
for
Ram Dass
example,
suit.
In society, the layers of mud. And so the whole journey of finding your bliss is about picking off the mud.
Right. It's about fighting the dragon of thou shalt and thou shalt not. And to be authentic, sometimes you have to fly in the face of that. You have to be a rebel for productive purposes, a rebel very much with a cause. Spending your whole life climbing the corporate ladder to find that you put it against the wrong wall.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary. Because you don't get that time back. And midlife crises are born out of that. But also really cool things. Jungian analysts, and even a man that they were talking to on What the Bleep, became a quantum physicist at 50. That's awesome.
Yep.
And again, becoming a Jungian analyst at 60, 70, 75 years old, I read and review a lot of books for Jungian analysts and Jungian organizations. And wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. And then the last thing is there's a great story about a tiger who gets lost and winds up growing up amongst the sheep and eats sheep food and has no roar. And a tiger comes along and grabs him and says, "Hey, man, you are a tiger. You're not a sheep." And he kind of force feeds him and puts him into it. And this little roar comes out, and it comes out. Big roar then. And again, it's another moment where I cry when we watch it, because I've been there in life where it is, if you are a tiger, I'm going to cry. I don't even care. Sorry, folks. If you are a tiger living among sheep, you are a pretty poor specimen of a tiger. Yeah, that gets me every time. That's something that resonates deep inside of me. So let's move on to another really cool guy. We just recommended someone very, very close to us is going through some life changes. And we said, you got to read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. You want to take them through the major?
Sure. So he talks about 3 zones, right? So you have your zone of incompetence. That's the stuff you're just not good at. For me, that's
like
anything
when I
mechanical.
got a fix, right? Me too. We make a heck of a pair.
Mechanical. Your zone of competence. You're good. You're okay at it.
9 times out of 10, though, that's what we do for a living.
It's generally what we do for a living.
It's my academic editing. That's my zone of competence.
Yeah, I was going to say we can be very good at it, but the thing about your zone of competence is it's not your bliss. It doesn't fulfill you. You're good at it, and you're probably so good at it that people come and ask you to do more of it, but it's not your zone. The third one, your zone of genius, and your zone of genius is really your bliss. It's the thing that you came here to do. It's your path. It's your purpose. That's your zone of genius. He talks about Einstein time. When you're engaging in your zone of genius, hours feel like minutes. Time just kind of melts away. So those are the 3 zones. He also talks about, why don't we reach usually in our lifetime that zone of genius? And he talks about the upper limit problem. We have this, belief somewhere in our unconscious mind that maybe we don't deserve to, or we have a fear of failure, or again, what will they think of me? We're worried about what our family and friends will think. And then so we hide our light, our genius under a bushel.
Right. And those are the big ones. As a mentor of creatives for the past 30 years, those are the ones. My family doesn't want me to do this. If I go out and do it, what are they going to think? If I'm authentic, if I become my authentic self, and that is, LGBTQI plus, all of that. This is who I authentically am, and people aren't going to accept it. Fear of failure is a big one. Mm-hmm. That's why, we don't want to put ourselves out there. And then the fact that if we try to be ourselves and we follow our bliss, our light shines. And people say, who the hell do you think you are? That is a terrible, terrible mantra. So Gay comes up with an alternative one. And I have used this for years. I love it. I'll tell you why I love it after I tell it to you. It is, I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. Abundance, the source, getting a lot of the good stuff, because it's okay. The source will make more. It's there. It's infinite. You are not taking it away from someone else if you get it. That's a lie. Success. And I remember working with a mentor in my 30s. And I said, I don't know, I'm chasing success. And he asked me to define it, and I couldn't. So here we are chasing something. We don't even know what the hell it is that we're chasing. And then, of course, love. Mm-hmm. All the loves that there are every day. This is a practice. This is a discipline. My students and people come to me and go, oh man, I just can't keep to stick to it. It's a practice. It's a discipline. It's the unsexy part. It's just the work. It's just the work. And then as I inspire those around me to do the same, this isn't all about me. This isn't all about me and feeding my ego and, oh, look at me, look what I'm doing. but it's a partnership.
Yeah, well, I think when we're being authentic, we just, as a sort of a side benefit, we inspire people. You know, we don't even have to think about trying to inspire people. Just like the other day, I was telling Joey, it was a cold morning. I didn't want to get out from under the covers, basically. I didn't know I might linger there the whole day. I wasn't sure. And I was watching a thing on CNN. I saw this headline, and one of the correspondents had said that she was going to leave. It wasn't, I don't watch the news a lot, so I didn't know who the correspondent was, but I was just curious, like, why is she leaving CNN? So I watched her little video, and it was really what she was talking about is, I was blessed to work here, but now I know there's something more, and I have to go follow my bliss. She didn't use those terms, but it's exactly what she was talking about. I have to follow my bliss. I have to, pursue my zone of genius. And I'm sitting there crying because I'm so inspired just because she's being brave. She's daring greatly. And all of a sudden I watched it and I was like, that's it. I'm getting out of bed. I'm going to go do some stuff. So she inspired me that day just by being her authentic self. And that is what happens. We don't have to try to inspire people.
Right.
We just do.
Linda dropped some big wisdom on us, folks. It's you'd be a poor specimen of a sheep too, I guess. And we are. When we're not living authentic, we're not there. We're not there for our loved ones. We're not there for our kids, for our spouses, for our bosses.
Exactly.
I worked to help try and pass some laws to protect LGBT in a state where we were living and where I sat on a lot of boards and testified in front of the legislature. And I got the very first Chamber of Commerce in the state to sign on. It was a Chamber of Commerce on which I sat on the board. And I said, look, when people are living a lie, when they are unauthentic, they are not giving you their best. If you're thinking in economic business terms, you want people authentic, confident, and fully being themselves, not spending that bank account on fear of being found out because I'll lose my job, I'll lose my housing. So it all ties together so beautifully. So let's move on because we're coming to the end here. I am. If you're a fan of Ace Ventura, Bruce Almighty,
Liar,
the Nutty Professor, Patch Adams with Robin Williams, who I miss so much, incredibly authentic.
Yeah.
Incredibly authentic. Then Tom Shadyac, who had mansions everywhere, super successful, fell off a bike, had a head injury. It was a persistent concussive condition with often leads to suicidal thoughts or suicide. He escaped that, but we went out in pursuit, and I'm moving quickly because we're coming to the end here. But the title I Am comes from, I believe it was in the early 1900s. The New York Times asked famous thinkers, movers, shakers, what is wrong with the world? And G.K. Chesterton, I'm going to cry again, said, Dear sirs, I am. We do not want to be what's wrong with the world. So we strive to not. So you want to lay down some of the cast? Oh,
this is, again, another incredible cast. Coleman Barks, who translates Rumi so beautifully. Tom Harmon, he talks about wetigo, which is basically greed as a mental illness. Lynn McTaggart again, Desmond Tutu, Dean Radin, John Francis, Howard Zinn, and many more. Again, just so many people. This movie is so inspiring. I really again another movie that I really recommend to all of my clients to watch.
Great messages from the audience here. I think happiness equals success. That's true. If you can be consistently happy, you're really doing something, because certainly success doesn't bring happiness. There's all kinds of studies, psychological, economic, all kind on that. Last one. We're getting to the end here before Tanya's big announcement. The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, 1990. I color code my books when I read them. I'll show you this here, and I apologize to our radio audiences. Read it in 90, 97, early 2000s, 2011, right? The woman who gave me this, Antoinette, I got out of college thinking that the world owed me something because I had my sheepskin and I had my double degree in English and theater. And why wasn't things happening? Why wasn't the world bending to my will? And she said, Joseph, read this book, and I have many times. There's a great film with Nick Nolte. We just visited that a couple weeks ago, and it's really the idea. Just very quickly before I turn it over to Tanya, Dan Millman, who wrote it, true story, Olympic level gymnast on the rings, incredibly talented, strong, disciplined, has a motorcycle accident, shatters his leg, and meets this guy named Socrates, who is in a kind of like a conglomeration of all kinds of thinkers, teachers, sort of what Don Juan was for Carlos Castaneda. And it's about getting on your right path. The universe nudges, and then it kicks you. I have been kicked by the universe, and it's always ugly. It's world shaking. Getting beyond the shiny things, the medals, the acclaim, and getting to the core simplicity. Again, authenticity, right?
That's right.
And it's all about mentoring. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I turn it over to my beautiful co-host.
Well, we've been talking about authenticity, following your bliss, and your zone of genius. And so many of you know that I offer a lot of different services and modalities, and they're all my bliss. But when I'm most feeling like I'm on my path, when I'm most in my zone of genius and in my bliss, is when I'm working with clients for this spiritual life coaching that I do. And I have a considerable amount of clients now that I'm working with. So I started thinking, I would really like to offer some sort of package and make this more of a program. So right now I've been working with clients and we just kind of work weekly, but I decided I want to make it more of a unified program. So I'm offering a membership program. The package is going to include a lot of different things. I don't want to spend a lot of time going over it, but it'll include my book, which you have, or maybe you already showed it. But I wrote this book really to use with my clients and when I'm offering workshops.
For our radio audience, the title?
The title is Living the Intuitive Life, Cultivating Extraordinary Awareness. And this book is filled with exercises, many of which I use when I'm working with my clients. But it won't just include that. It will include weekly group complimentary group classes, self-development classes, which of course will be offered online via Zoom, which allows me to reach a broader audience anyway. And everybody, of course, gets an individualized daily program and so much more, which I will be talking about in detail. I'm offering a complimentary gallery reading February 27th. If you already are a client of mine, you'll be receiving an invitation for this gallery reading. Again, it will be on Zoom. If you're not a client of mine and would like to attend this because maybe you're interested in the spiritual life coaching, just send me a message on our Into the Outer Realms page or go to my Tanya Medea Medium page. Send me a message with your email address, and I'll be happy to invite you to this gallery reading. So many of you who are here tonight have been to my gallery readings. I call them Messages from Spirit. I used to do them monthly until recently. So they were called monthly Messages from Spirit. But my Messages from Spirit gallery readings generally last about an hour to an hour and a half. I try to read everybody who's there. It depends on how many people are there, whether or not somebody is coming through. But anyway, that's just sort of a gift, a thank you to the clients who support me. And during that event, I will talk more about more of the details that have to do with the membership for the life coaching.
So let's, Valerie says, I told my husband how authentic you guys are. Thank you. We deeply appreciate that. We'll continue to live up. Just heard you on Jim Harold today. So Jim Harold calls his audience the Spooktators, which I love very much. And please follow Jim on Facebook and follow him on YouTube. He's an amazing. He brings the message. He brings the people with the message. Jim is first class. Well, it was our third time. We were honored. These are the Outer Realmers.
Yeah,
or Realmers.
The Realmers.
The Realmers. I like it. So thank you to all our Realmers. We're going to finish up. We're going to give you the last word tonight. So thank you. Lori said, this is so wonderful. I'm so proud of you. This is going to be great.
Thank
I
you,
agree, Lori. I am so excited to see what Tanya's going to be doing at this Partner Life. Candace says, yes, I'm definitely interested. Much needed. So you gave your contact info?
Yep. So again, Candace, on the Into the Outer Realms Facebook page, just send a message, or you can find my Tanya Medea Medium page. Either one, just send me your email address and I will send you the Zoom link.
Jessica says, yay, sounds awesome. An amazing book.
Thank you, Jessica.
Linda says, can I bring my brother?
Yes.
Your brother, he gets in free.
He comes anyway. Yeah, of course.
That's right. Tanya will talk to him. And then David says, I'm interested. Maybe we can get a carpool going, Candace. Nice. For now, it's all going to be on video. It's all
going to be virtual, so it all will be through Zoom. So anyone who's interested, send me an email or I guess a private message on Facebook with your email address, and I will send you the Zoom link. It is February 27th. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you'll just follow the Zoom link, and it'll bring you right into the event.
David won't always be online. We're living in Eastern Ohio now, but once the weather gets warmer and once things start to open up, so get a better handle on the pandemic and all, we will be coming to West Virginia.
Yeah, usually, Dave, these events were held in person in Morgantown at a place called Bliss on Greenbag Road. Right. So once everything opens back up, that is my hope that they will return to being in person. Right.
So please follow the Facebook page, Into the Outer Realms. We'll keep doing what we're doing. Thank you all so much to our Realmers.
Yes.
Hope you guys all like that name. If not, give us some alternatives. But I kind of like it, Realmers or Outer Realmers. And we're building virtually for a lot of reasons. It's just smart business. Virtual bricks for a foundation that we do believe on our path in the next couple of years, and we've known this for about 15 years. When the time is right, we are going to open a paranormal research and training center that will have a serious spiritual component as well.
Absolutely.
We can't divorce them. So there you go. So Candace is giving big love to Bliss. That's awesome. Dave, thank you. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
We ran kind of long tonight, but it was important. We'll see you all next week with Michael Giannetti, lifelong abductee.
Yes.
Michael talks very frankly and very eloquently about his experiences, which is wonderful. And the next several months, man, we got great guests coming up. So we'll see you all soon. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks for coming. Miss you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.